What's up, folks? This is Addy, and this is Public Intelligence. I have a fantastic guest tonight. Carmen Smith Studer is a life coach, video creator, host of the Let Me Ask My Mom podcast, author and founder of Light Club, who has worked in the entertainment industry as a producer. And she's also appeared on Good Morning Texas, among many other media appearances. We started following each other on Twitter recently after my coverage of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. We got connected. I just showed up on her channel, and now we're following over to my channel and continuing our conversation. But thanks for joining me, Carmen.
Thank you for having me. It's so exciting to connect with you.
Of course, yeah, and that was great to talk to Maria Farmer over on your channel too. That was quite a pleasant surprise and really a treat. But I want to ask you, I like to start with how people got into the work they're doing, and then if you want to talk about where you're from. I think you're based in Texas. I don't know if you've always been there, but yeah, anywhere you want to take it, Miss, as far as beginnings and how that transformed to today.
So my dad was a Marine Corps guy. I was born on a military base. I grew up in the Chicago area and left there as soon as I could because I am a creature of comfort and it was too cold up there. As you know, I spent a lot of time in Wisconsin because the drinking age was younger there when I was when I was in high school. And let's see what else. Just basically ended up in Texas because I was engaged to be married to somebody who I didn't end up marrying, but that's what brought me down to Texas. And then, I was so blessed to be married to somebody who was a great provider. And so I had a lot of time to do the things that I wanted to do. And that included, homeschooling my children and being able to be a part of my daughter, who was very interested in film from a young age. And so she'd been on Good Morning, or not Good Morning, she'd been on Prison Break. She'd, done all kinds of different, made-for-TV movies. And then she got interested in comedy. And then we started doing the podcast a couple of years ago. And as you know, it's hard to build that up. And it was because of my life coaching and my interest in understanding remote viewing and other things that led me to Michael Jaco. And then Michael Jaco started having me as a guest, and it just kind of blew up from there, which was really fun. But yes, I've produced movies. I have co-authored because it was a collaborative book. So I'd authored one chapter, but it was a good experience. And then the reason that I was on Good Morning Texas and also Good Morning America was because of my work helping guys out of prison. And that happened because of a movie. And so I've just been blessed to have a very wide scope of experiences in life and incredible people. I'm kind of like you know how you just reach out to me? That's how I am about everything. Like I just kind of stay in that now moment and I just kind of move with it wherever it takes me. And it's taken me a lot of crazy places.
Wow. Okay. And I'm curious, where in Wisconsin did you visit when you were?
So I was from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. And we were probably 45 minutes to an hour from the border. So I had several friends who had, their parents had condos in Lake Geneva, and my aunt lived in Racine, and so we just would go up and down all the time. It was fun.
Wow.
And Lake Geneva is beautiful.
Lake Geneva was going to be my guess, actually. So that's interesting. You mentioned working with people in prison.
Yeah.
What did that consist of?
So when my son went to a Christian school, and they started the TAPS, which was the association of all of the area Christian schools started playing the prison, because I guess when the prisoners team played regular public schools, it wasn't a good mix. They weren't nice to them. There was a lot of issues, and so they thought they would try something different. Well, what happened is, it was one of those God ordained moments in the lives of many people. There was this amazing woman who worked at the school, who knew someone from another school, who said, oh, well, when those guys came, we made them dinner, and we really treated them well. And we just, as a school, took it to another level. The coach, she had told the coach about it, and the coach wrote an email to the entire school saying, hey, these guys are coming. They've never had fans in their whole life. They don't know what Christ is, to this level. Let's show them. So half the people went to that side. The JV cheerleaders became their cheerleaders. We had signs for them. And when it first began, when they first got there, the security guards were like really protective and not letting anybody near them within like 10 feet. And they're like, if you guys want to do a spirit line, you got to be far, far away, And by the end of that, God had moved so much that the security guards were letting us pray with them, hug them, it was just this unbelievable religious, but like truly spirit moving, just this expression of love that kind of happened between this Christian school and this. We got them Bibles. We got them dinner. They were sent home with these gift bags, of course approved. And then the revival kind of continued on back into the prison, where everyone was talking about it, and they were, kind of turning their lives over to Christ. And it became a local story first, but Skip Bayless, I think is his name, picked it up as an international kind of sports story through, I think, Troy Aikman or somebody. And next thing you know, like all of these Hollywood producers wanted to do a movie. And it's because of that movie and me being one of the associate producers on it that I was thinking, well, let's have some of these guys that are actually coming out of prison, because they were in youth prison. They weren't there for life. A lot of them, well, maybe some of them would be, but the ones that were on the field weren't. And so I was just thinking they'd be cool extras, it'd be a great story, have them show up. So I was kind of in charge of reaching out to them, and it just blew up into an entire ministry. And I worked for 4.5 years on the front lines with these guys out of jail. And one of them even came to live with us. And his story is quite extraordinary, because he's a natural born leader and a natural speaker, but his education was 8th grade. It's as far as he went. And then he started getting into all the bad stuff. And so by the time we were on Good Morning America, it was kind of like they were comparing it to that movie, The Blind Side, because he literally had come and lived with us and it changed his whole life. He ended up like, here's this ex-felon or former, gang member. And he is literally in acting classes with, at my daughter's school, and he's learning how to act, and he's doing speaking gigs. And next thing you know, he's speaking with Tony Dungy in some prison somewhere. And like, things just kind of blew up. It was an incredible experience. And I personally worked with probably anywhere between 12 to 14 of the guys, like, directly helping them find places to live, helping them get cars, helping them get jobs, things like that. And then it's just blown up, and it's called One Heart Project, and it still exists. I'm not a part of it anymore, but Mac is, the kid that lived with us, who's now a man, who's 30 and has his daughter, and he's the speaker, or the figurehead, so to speak. He's the spokesperson. That's the word I was looking for. And so that's kind of what happened with that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great.
It's kind of complicated.
So they were juvenile prisoners?
Yes.
Okay.
Youth
Wow.
prison. And it was really interesting, because he didn't get out until he was 19. He should have gone to what they call the big house, but God was watching over him. He was supposed to get out and be out of jail on parole 6 months before that football game. And he said that God told him not to take parole. And for a long time, he didn't understand why God told him to do that, but he listened. And because of that obedience, his whole life shifted. And he's done really well with acting. He's been in a nationally released movie called Carter High, and he was the lead in the movie. And he's still doing it. So it's
Wow.
pretty amazing story.
That's great. And was a movie made particularly about that, aside from Blindside, or did I
Yeah,
miss that?
no, the Blindside had nothing to do with it. I was
Right,
just
right.
comparing it, but
I understand.
yes, there was. And what's so
Okay.
crazy is the movie was never released
Oh,
because there was a long, complicated story. They ran out of funding, basically, and so it literally just got finished this year, and so it's supposed to come out next year, and it's called One Heart. Yeah, it's just called One Heart. One Heart is the name of the movie, and so hopefully it'll come out in November.
okay. Okay. Excellent, man. That's gonna be great. Is somebody? Are you in the movie? Is somebody
No, I'm
portraying you?
not.
Or?
I'm not.
Okay.
I was just, helping raise money is what was my main position there.
Okay. And did you? I mean, did that come about partially as a result of your connection to the entertainment industry through
Hmm.
helping your daughter out?
Yeah. So what
Okay.
happened was originally I started working with my daughter, just being like, stage mom kind of thing. And then when you're on the set, you meet a lot of people. And because I'm kind of like you, I'm like out there and I meet people and I make connections. And um, next thing you know, I'm reading scripts and giving people feedback. And then I kind of got this reputation for being the person that will like cut something apart. I'll be like, well, this doesn't make sense. If I was an actor, I wouldn't want to take that, but and then I would be able to just give them notes, not an editor in any, capacity, but more of an advisor or a consultant, and then when this story broke, everyone wanted it in Hollywood because they're like, this is a great story, and the school decided, oh, we'll have a meeting where we'll invite all of the parents that are involved in that business at all and see if anyone wants it. We'll, start it here. And so, I mean, Chuck Norris's son was there and all these other people were in this meeting. And there was one gentleman that decided that he wanted to take on the project. And I just, told him I'd be happy to help. And that's how it happened.
Wow, wow. And I think this is a good segue. I wanted to ask you about what that experience was like, kind of helping your daughter become an actress, especially as a child. Yeah, what was that like? When did you first get an inkling that's a desire she had?
So it's kind of interesting. What happened was my sister's son decided he wanted to be in the television when he was really little. And my sister just happened to live in a city where they had one of the top acting coaches for film. Her name is Catherine Sullivan, and she has trained Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez and all of these, people that have done really well. There's hundreds of them. It's not just those two, but those are just the biggest names. And so my nephew was really the reason he started doing commercials. And then my daughter saw him in the television, and she's like, I want to do that. And so then we started taking her to acting classes. And then she got an agent, and then she booked some stuff. And it just kind of grew from there. But then she got to a certain age where she wanted to, experience school and like a regular life. And so we did that as well. And that's
Okay,
kind of where that slowed down. And then that's how I had the experience.
okay, okay, sweet. And I wanted to ask you about your coaching. When did you start doing that? What does it consist of? Because I know on your website, carmenstuder.com, you have true stories. I think you keep them anonymous, the people, but you just talk about how you help them out,
Mm-hmm.
and quotes from it, and how the arc of that, learning process went. Yeah. So what was the genesis of being a life coach?
So I would say, if I'm going to say this in as short a time as I can, it would be my mother's death. So, I'm 14, my mom's getting cancer. You begin looking at life in a completely different way than a normal 14-year-old. And so I was always fascinated with where people were going, why people died. Like I had so many questions. And so I became this kind of voracious reader right after she died. Even though it took 10 years, she was 24, or I was 24 when she died. I have studied every day since she died. It was almost like this mantle was put on me from her or something. I don't know. But I've been fascinated with anything spiritual since then. And that included when I was probably, I'm trying to think, I was probably 27 when I got pregnant. So I was 29 when I met Byron Katie. And Byron Katie has been on Oprah and all kinds of different things, but we had kind of found her early on in her career, and we used to have her come and work with people at our company, and she kind of trained me, so to speak. But then I didn't really do anything with it, because I was a mother and very busy with other things, until I started working with the guys out of jail. And I realized that each one of these people, these incredible, I love humans the way some people love dogs, but I would meet these people and these guys out of prison that I could just see, like, if I just chip away at these couple of things, they'll be amazing. They'll be just this incredible human. And so it became something that just was natural in me, that I would want to watch people unfold. I used to just love when they would light up and like you could see where they were getting it, right? And so when I was working with the guys out of jail, I just got lots of practice of mentoring. But it wasn't until I went through my divorce and went through this, financial dip in my life that I realized, okay, I would have to figure out something that I can do. And there was one week in particular, I went on a date with a guy, and he's like, gosh, it's like, I feel like I should pay you. Like, I feel like you just helped me so much. And then I had a neighbor say, I feel like I should pay you. And I had never, ever thought in a million years about charging people for this. It's just a natural part of who I was. And so I was like, wow, I could do this and get paid. Like, that would be cool. And so that's how the coaching started, was, people saying, okay, we're going to hire you.
Wow. That's fantastic. So was that largely your full-time gig now, along with
Yes.
podcasting, or is it
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
What advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about becoming a life coach? And conversely, on the patient side or the client side, how would somebody know if, maybe I should go get a life coach? Is there signs or symptoms of that?
I think it's a desire thing. I mean, I've got some of the coolest clients ever. The difference between therapy and life coaches, I think you get people that really, really, really want more and expansion in their life. Whereas I think a lot of times therapy, they're trying to fix something that's wrong.
Right.
So I feel so lucky that, I get to be on this incredible journey with people, like professional athletes that, are realizing that they can do more. It's a funny thing. Like my son the other day is like, Mom, he's like, man, I think you should work with gamers because some of them are just like amazing, amazing, amazing. And then there's this tournament and they collapse and they didn't do as good as they normally do. And like, I know you could help them. And it's so much of everything is a mental game. But I'll tell you, one of the things that when I was first working with Byron Katie in my early 20s, I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a coach, but I wasn't equipped to be one until I had gone through enough of what I call no man's land to actually qualify. So you can't go to somebody and say, hey, you should have all of these horrible things happen to you in your life, because then you'll be a really good coach.
Sure.
And so I do think, though, there's a piece about just staying in and actually participating in the very thing that you want to be. And so it's like you can't be a reporter unless you're actually in there being a reporter. And so you have to begin the journey. And it's funny because sometimes you get taught on the job. Don't you agree? Like you like you said, like the first week and on the Maxwell trial was the hardest, right? And so you learned from that experience. And so I think my biggest advice would be just to begin, and you're going to learn on the way, because as you dive into something, things begin to unfold. And I don't know what law that is. The law of momentum, that's what it is. It's the law of momentum. You just get it going and it begins to expand for you. It's like, it's actually quite magical.
Yeah. It's like opportunities multiply as they are seized upon. Somewhat of a similar idea, but yeah, I think learning on the job is the best way to learn. I think, and maybe the second best way is teaching. I think
Oh,
teaching
yeah,
is one of the best ways to learn.
absolutely. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, and uh, would you say that you work in performance psychology then, or?
I would say I work in spiritual performance.
Okay. Okay.
We call it life coach because what else are you going to call it? It's so hard to describe, because basically what I'm doing is I'm teaching people how to read energy, but I'm teaching them how to also, so when I say read energy, somebody goes, oh, that's weird. That sounds strange. So then I'd say, okay, well, I'm teaching you how to read spirits. Or, there's so many different ways. And so often you're interpreting the person's life, but you kind of have to go through their filter. So you have to learn their filter. I just have this ability to read energy. I don't know how to describe it. And I didn't have that at first. And that's one of the reasons why, sometimes it's the experience that takes it. I was such a beautiful human, and I'm not bragging about myself. I'm just saying I was raised with good people. I didn't have shysters around me. I didn't have experiences like Maria Farmer. I had good people around me. And so I was very trusting. And that can be to your detriment in a lot of areas if you're not careful. And so one of the things that happens is through this experience of life, and sometimes it's time and sometimes it's experience, you learn these patterns that are actual laws. There's actual laws. You reap what you sow, cause and effect. The law of momentum, you've got to get something going in order for it to go. The law of correspondence, I call that like the Sherlock Holmes law, where you can tell a lot about somebody based on how they handle things. And so once you get really good at understanding, I think, one, the traits of God, two, that we're always projecting, we're electromagnetic, so we're always projecting, we're always transmitting, and we're always receiving. And so once you get good at understanding that, then you can see, what is this person transmitting? What are the things, what are the ways that they receive these things? And you can start seeing things that the average person just can't see because they haven't practiced that. But when I can teach somebody the kind of energy that they're allowing in and the kind of energy they're allowing out, and they gain control of that vehicle, they become better at being who they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you have a meditative practice? Is
Every
that
day.
related to it? And if so, what is that?
So what I always tell people about meditation is it's very, very personal. It's kind of like people are like, well, you should do transcendental, or you should do this. I disagree. I think it's just like music. You have a taste and you have a way of working with this world that other people don't have. And so only you will know how you want to commune with God. And that's what I think it is. I think it's communing with God. I call it the secret place of the Most High. It's this place that I get into where I feel this incredible rhythm with life and with truth and with joy and with curiosity. And when I'm in that, it feels so good that I nearly get chills. I've had chills sometimes for like hours at a time. And when you don't feel like that, it's very noticeable instead of, the opposite. A lot of times people don't notice until they feel like complete crap. And so I feel so good all the time that it's really noticeable if I come down and I don't like it, and I do everything that I can to protect against it, and I can teach it. But I only know it because of meditation. I would say meditation would be the one thing that changed my life. And it has morphed for me because it started out where I was only doing guided meditations by someone else, any kind, I didn't care. Then it got to where I just needed complete silence. And I wanted to rotate through, like, do I see anything? Do I hear anything? Do I feel anything? And that was really fun because I would have visions come into my head that only God could have put there, They were absolutely amazing and magical and beautiful. But it has developed over time to where my favorite way is to pull verses from the Bible and to meditate on those verses. And what I have learned from that is that you literally do lay them in your heart. And when you have laid something in your heart, you can't help but express it in the world. So,
Wow. So you'll kind of repeat them to yourself almost in your mind, or
I'm really lucky because like I said, I get paid to do this. So I have clients that we however often they want, some of them, once a month, I work, 2-3 times a week with, depending on what they need. But I guide them and I pull from the Bible while I'm guiding them. So I'll guide them through, a relaxation. I'll guide them through, like for Maria, I did like this beautiful healing one. But I always pull in pieces of the Bible, but then I also try to have them pulling from their own, because if they don't have those moments of quiet where it's just them and God, then they can't touch it the way that they need to. And so I'm able to, with eyes open, be in meditation with my client, but I'm kind of guiding it. It's really cool, actually. And what happens is a lot of times I don't even have to do the work. God does it for me, if that makes sense. Because it truly is a double-edged sword. It cuts that evil off of you, the sins, the lies, the illusions, the misinterpretations, the mistakes. They begin cutting off of you, and so you have a more pure and beautiful vessel.
And how, as your meditation process and ritual has evolved, how important or what part has breathing played into it, if at all?
Huge. One of my best experiences, the very first time I ever had what I would call peace beyond understanding, or nirvana, or whatever word you want to use, was me using breath work while I was laying in meditation. And it was so incredible that even when I got up, I stayed in that space completely coherent, looking around and just in awe, like, oh my gosh, no wonder I dated this person, and no wonder this happened. Like, God was orchestrating like everything. It was like every stitch of my life made sense. And I reach for it all the time. Like, I've never had one that incredible, but I get close to that. But I mean, when I got up, I was sweating, like water was dripping off of me. I had to shower. I don't know what happened, but I hit something and it included breath work. But I usually start with breath work, but I don't normally continue it. It's a lot of work, and I do really enjoy meditating so much that I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to do the breath work. I just want to enjoy whatever it is that I'm seeing or whatever I'm hearing from that space.
I had a similar experience in that I started out doing guided meditation, and then I found it almost distracting once you get to a certain level of peace, I think. But one of the first thing I noticed, and I think there's more of a cumulative effect to meditation than a one, you do it once and you see a difference, is that when I would stub my toe, my reaction, instead of it would go away on me almost immediately. It was like I was becoming aware of my negative and emotions in general much more quickly.
How they added to it. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I would stub my toe and I would still get annoyed and angry, but it would be like a split second and then it would go back to neutral. Whereas before it might linger for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, or 30 seconds, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I noticed. But likewise, I agree as well that the controlled breathing can be taxing. So what I do now usually is just count my breaths as they come, and try to just breathe in and out and be aware of them. So I really recommend it to people who are having trouble being present, because I think I mentioned it on your show, it's so hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's the beauty of meditation too. You just summed it up in a beautiful illustration. Remember, I was saying that I notice now when I'm not in that space. So the old me would have stubbed my toe, not thought much of it, been aggravated. Then as I was walking out of the house, I grabbed a coffee on the way, and then I was just grabbing the door and I spilled the coffee, and I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm already late. Like, okay, now I got to go clean this up. Oh, it's on my outfit. The old me would have just continued the whole day like that, not knowing that I wasn't present. So the new me the new me does one thing like that. Doesn't matter if it's stubbing toe, dropping something. I'm like, okay, get back in here, girl. Get back in your space. I'll even, rather than running out the door and being late and probably having some other thing happen, I'll just sit for a second and just get that feeling, that harmony, that orchestrated beauty. And it comes pretty quick now. Like I can do it in seconds, but then I'll go about my life and not have, every red light on the way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You don't conflate the, negative events together. Or another thing too is like problems. Like, okay, I have a homework problem and I have a chore problem and I have a romantic problem, but they're not all together, right? They're different problems, and so you don't, otherwise it kind of snowball. But I wanted to ask, what's the most common problem your clients have, if there is one, and how do they fix it? Is there a common problem?
The common problem is that they think the problem's on the outside. They think,
sure,
my golf game, something's wrong with it. My wife, something's wrong with it. My kids, something's wrong with it. When really it's all here. Everything begins here, and your connection to up there. And so it's convincing people that they have the ability to shift perception, to shift frequency, and to change the outcome. And this is just simple, like logic when you think about it. Like anyone that's angry, nobody wants to be around them. Anyone that's happy and loving, everyone wants to be around them. And so it's the same for everything. So imagine when you open up that love and that hope and that all those good things, you create this huge net of possibilities. Whereas if you're afraid, you're cloistering down and you're minimizing your options. And so it's that process of realizing that there's only you that's making that decision. No one else is making that decision to either be open or to be closed. But no, everything from, I want to be better at sports. I work with kids with sports. I work with people on their abundance. I work with people on their attitudes. I work with people that have come out of things with addictions. It's vast because really it's all the same thing. It's all spiritual. It can look like every other material kind of thing, but in my opinion, it comes down to the spirit world.
What is the law of correspondence? Could you expound on that a little bit?
Sure. So the law of correspondence is this always corresponds to this. So if I'm trying to think of an example of, so for instance, if I'm talking to a gentleman because I'm single and he's single, and he comes on a date with me and he presses in too hard on my space one time, I know that he's the kind of person that will press in on people's personal space, period, until he changes that. Does that make sense? So based on what he did, I can extrapolate that out into how he is on the inside. It's kind of like when Sherlock Holmes, like when you're watching the movie with Robert Downey Jr. and he's reading everything in that the person's wearing, how they're walking, if they're limping, because each one of those things tell him something. They're all clues about the real person.
Okay.
So it's kind of like this way of reading somebody based on their patterns.
Right. Okay. That's a great explanation. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you are a voracious reader. I wanted to ask you what authors, books you like, maybe favorites, books you've gifted, or if that's too broad, maybe what you've been reading recently that you have found interesting.
Wow, it's such a big. So when I was first starting to want to know where my mom went, what happened to her, that's how that's what led me to Byron Katie was, trying to find out the answers to these incredible questions, these amazing mysteries of the world. And so, there's so many I don't even know where to begin. And then once Audible came along, I'm listening to books at double time, and I'm listening to the books multiple times so that they become a part of my DNA, so to speak.
Sure.
And so there's so many, I don't know, there's something about the authors from the early 1900s that I really identify with. And a lot of them are very esoteric type stuff, like Florence Scovel's Shin or whatever. I don't even know how to say her name. And I love all the Napoleon Hill stuff. And I was very interested, or always have been interested in optimizing humans, but not in a scientific AI optimization, or
Sure.
not in a cult, I'm going to use, entities kind of way, but just giving humans the most that you can to become all that you are. And so, I could sit here for days and say authors, but really, I think the best advice I would have for anyone when it comes to books is just follow whatever you're interested in and see where that leads you, because it is a personal journey. Trying to think of what books I've gifted. Yeah, I can't even, I'll tell people all the time, oh, you should read this, you should read that. And then as far as what I'm reading now, everything about personal healing and about healing outside of medical things. My favorite so far in that genre is Barbara O'Neill. She's amazing. She's out of Australia. I think she's even been kicked out of Australia, or she's left Australia because she was curing so many people that I think there was an issue with it. I don't know the whole story. I just know that she's a powerful woman, and she is very. She's just so vast in her knowledge. She was a nurse, but she also knows everything about herbs and poultices and all the different ways to wrap the body and how to use hydrotherapy. And she's fascinating.
Okay. Wow.
And right now, I think it's something that everyone should know how to do, quite frankly.
What's that, Carmen?
Heal themselves.
Heal. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about, are there particular authors who have had an influence specifically on your life coaching and your life coaching philosophy? I know you just mentioned O'Neill. Any others that have had that sort of impact?
I'll tell you, when I was talking about meditation, so I've had really incredible experiences with meditation, and I literally there was a day that I was meditating and this idea came down, and it's what I used to use when I would work with people. It was this cool grid system that I created that was really thorough, and that people would answer all of these yes/no questions, and it would give me, it was kind of like the law of correspondence was working, but it would give me an idea of what was going on with them in these major 10 categories, which to me were like the 10 most important categories a person could have. And that's what I teach from, is just my own God-given experience. I think if you can break it down, I think Barbara O'Neill would be great for any type of healing naturally. I think that when it comes to abundance, I think some of those early writers like Wallace Wattles.
Okay.
I think that like The Science of Getting Rich is probably one of the best ones that I've ever read. It's so simple and it works. Oh, and there's a book called It Works. It's like 14 pages long. It's on YouTube. It's like, I don't know, 7 minutes or something. And it's kind of a cool exercise where, you write down all of the things that you want on a regular basis, and you keep writing them down until you start crossing them off. And it's a very, very simple thing, and it absolutely works. And it's cute. It's a cute little book. And then I'm trying to think, relationships would be the other one. And who do I think wrote some of the best stuff on relationships? It's interesting because as far as relationships go, I think the greatest thing that you can learn is boundaries. And so there's a lot of good books on boundaries, because I think oftentimes when we love someone, we take them on, but we also do a lot of codependency and a lot of reciprocal attachment kind of love that's very unhealthy. And so I think boundary books are good for that piece.
Wow. Great stuff. And you mentioned, Carmen, that kind of those questions you asked. Have you taken the Myers-Briggs test? And if so, what do you think of it? What's your Myers-Briggs? And then I wanted to ask about your astrological sign too, just because I know that'd be of interest.
Yeah. So I took it, and I took the Enneagram. And for some reason, I don't remember the Myers-Briggs. I have it somewhere. I don't remember what I scored on it. I don't remember, because I did that, 12, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. Enneagram I've taken more recently. I'm an 8/7. And then I'm a Gemini.
Okay. Interesting stuff. And then were you brought up into a particular religious denomination as a youth?
No. Actually, I think that my parents had such a bad experience with Catholic church that neither one of them wanted anything to do with religion. We didn't grow up even going for Christmas or Easter or anything. The only experience I had young, spiritually, maybe this is why I was so hungry for it, was with my grandmother. But I don't remember it being awesome because it was, old school Catholic. It was in Latin. I would bring my books and be bored to death and couldn't wait to get out of there. And it's so funny because now I think it's my favorite thing in the whole world is the Bible and spirituality, but I'm not connected to any church. And it's ironic because, I started my channel to be like the wilderness church, and I didn't realize how wild it would get because it's crazy. All of the people who are so spiritually connected but yet have had horrific experiences in churches. And there's so much damage that has been done. And then now, I find out about the human trafficking and the child trafficking and then the satanic ritual abuse and all of the stuff that I didn't realize how real it was.
Sure. Yeah, it's understandable. And because of that, would you say your parents were atheist or?
No, I think they were agnostic. I think they
Sure.
believed in God, but I just don't think that they wanted to participate in the religion because of the experience that they had.
And what about your own children? Did you bring them up in a similar way, or was that more? Yeah, how did that? If I can ask.
Yeah, we did. We brought them up in church. We went to a local church. It was kind of a Bible church, and my whole thing that I've always believed in and still do believe in is that each person is an individual that God put here for their reasons that are beyond mine, even my own children. And, I'm going to give them all of the tools to have good character that I can. And the rest of it is going to be up to them as far as what they want to do. And neither one of them, goes to church on a regular basis. But I think they're both really grounded in excellent principles and character and ethics.
Excellent. And I wanted to ask you about the book you helped write. You're co-author of the book Life-Defining Moments from Bold Thought Leaders, kind of a plethora.
Yeah.
Looks like 3, 4, maybe about 10 or so other writers that you.
There's a bunch more, actually. And that was a really cool story. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jim Rohn. He's a famous.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Yes.
Yep.
So Jim Rohn was managed by this incredible man named Kyle Wilson. Kyle, his last name's not coming to me. Please forgive me, Kyle. But anyway, he has this really cool group that gets together on a regular basis, and it's kind of like a membership. You belong to it, and every time we would get together, he would bring in these incredible people that were very inspiring and have done lots of different things. And that group of people all decided to do a collaborative book together. And so he's actually done several. I think he's done like 4 or 5 of them, and they're all a little bit different. But it was a really fun process, and it was a wonderful group to be a part of. And he's a very powerful guy that knows a lot of people. He's really good friends with what is that gentleman who wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? What
is it? Robert
Kawasaki,
right? Is that
I think that is it. Yeah. And so he's very connected with all of those guys. He's pretty much connected with anyone that would have been in, that peak performance type world. As a matter of fact, a lot of the Tony Robbins guys were there. So it was just kind of a fun group. And he had a group here in Dallas. He had a group in LA, and they would do trips and, all kinds of different things. And so that's how that came about. And that was when I wrote my chapter, the whole impetus of it was it doesn't matter what's going on in your world as far as the outside goes. What matters is what's going on in the inside, because I was just learning to say no to people. I was just learning how not to please everyone all the time, but to actually please God. And the difference in the outcome of your life when you're not trying to please everyone else. And it's a hard discipline to get used to, because it's fun to make people happy. But what you'll find out is that in the end, you're making more people happy doing what God wants you to do.
And that link to buy that book is in the show notes and description if people want to do that, and help support Carmen's work. You wrote a whole chapter in that book, correct?
Yeah, I just wrote a chapter, and it's a simple, it's like an essay really. And so it was it was just a really fun collaborative book. I think there's 40 different people that were involved in it. And the stories it's kind of like that chicken soup for the soul type of thing.
Sure.
It reminds me of that, where each person is sharing, a really incredible story from their life.
Okay. Wow. And what advice would you give to yourself at 25 years of age? What would you say to the 25-year-old Carmen?
Stop being so boy crazy. What would I say to me back then? I think I would say the same thing I would say to my children if I, was on my last dying breath, and that would be, please get everything okayed through God. Stay in the secret place of the Most High. If I've done anything, I've learned that is a place that fixes it all. And so if you can be there, and I know that you might not know what I'm talking about, but if you can look for this place that makes you feel safe and it's on the inside, then you've got it covered from there on, girl.
Okay. Excellent. And yeah, thank you, Carmen. And where do you see your 2022 going? You got project plans or podcast plans? Yeah, anything you want to share as far as your work in the near future or otherwise currently?
Yeah, I think I'm one of those strange people that's not going to have a business plan. I never have, and I probably never will. And maybe that's a air sign thing. Maybe that's just the way God made me. I don't know. But I tend to imagine, at this point in time, I've got to be honest, my shift has been, there's a lot of work to be done. There's very, very few people who can or want to put themselves in the line of fire. I mean, is what you do safe?
I don't know what you mean by safe exactly.
Well, you know what I mean. Like the average person might be afraid to do your work.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah. And so I think that we need more people that are willing to do some of the jobs that nobody wants to do. And it's really important for people to understand that this SRA world is a world that is absolutely colliding with our material world. And if we don't know how to handle it, we are going to be at a huge disadvantage. And so I feel like my thing right now is just to daily answer whatever it is that God wants me to do. And at this point in time, it's to give voice to people who are ready to tell their stories. And there's a lot of them, and they're weird stories.
Sure. That's great. And I mean, I'm glad to have connected with you.
Yeah, thank you so
Carmen.
much.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out to me. And yeah, I just hope I don't get your channel whacked.
Oh, well, only God can do that. So
Sure. Can't stop the signal, right?
well, I mean, you just keep on rolling, I've watched Michael Jaco do that. I mean, he had 200,000 people on the first one, and then
Wow.
got another one up to 100,000, and it got knocked, and then got another one up to 40, and then he had to like spread out in all these different ways. But whatever it is what happens. We have to be okay with it. but we also have to continue to be connected and to help each other.
I'm curious. I like to ask this of pretty much everybody, and I'm not sure how much of a news hound you are. Obviously, you're pretty interested in the Epstein Maxwell stuff, but where do you go for news? Do you go to reporters on the internet, or yeah, what do you like
I'm
to listen to?
definitely more into assessing the information for myself. And I think
Mm,
that's why I like Twitter so much, is because there's such a vast opportunity to go direct to the people like you who are actually there. And I feel like they have to be vetted. I mean, even like I look at Project Veritas, and I think there's a lot of incredible stories that he has broke. But I also
for sure.
think that there's some stuff that we just have to be careful nowadays. I think that people really have to earn the trust.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so I think the more places you can get stuff, the better. But I also think that anything that I need to know, God's always been really gracious in giving me that information down to the detail of something that I might need to know right before I need to know it. So I guess that's where I get my ultimate news.
Sure. Sure. Great stuff there, Carmen. And where can people find your work? Where do you want to direct people's attention to?
So just, I guess, either my YouTube channel, my Twitter, which is under my name, and then also my website if anyone wants to get a hold of me.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank you. I
for having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah, for both having me on and for being on my channel. And hopefully we could do it again. Um, and I want to thank the audience too, because they, like I said, probably play the most important role in this. But yeah, any final thoughts, Carmen, before we sign off?
No, but support you. You're amazing, and I hope that maybe someday we could do a book project, or I don't know, something. It'll be fun because I absolutely think you're cool, and I love your attitude and your demeanor, and you're just a blessing to the world.
Wow, thank you, Carmen. I'd love to take you up on that for sure. And yeah, it's definitely something we can talk about. And hopefully you can stick around for a minute or two after we sign
Okay,
off
yeah,
here.
I'll be happy to.
But stay frosty, folks. We'll see everybody next time, and please follow Carmen and support her. Links are in the show notes below.
Thank you.